Hey everybody, this is Nima from Calming Technology. Today's speaker is going to be Nirinjan Yee, who is the founder of BreathResearch and the MyBreath iPhone app, which is trying to figure out how to develop technology that helps people breathe better and give people feedback about their breath while using just their iPhone headset.
And we are the founders of BreathResearch Incorporated, and I am the CEO. And it's truly an honor for me to be here today. And as soon as I walked in, as I told BJ and Nima, I said, wow, I found my tribe, a class in calming technologies. So this is our vision, and it's always been our vision from the get-go, from the very beginning. I've spent probably the last 35 years doing different types of body work, what's called somatic therapy, movement training. And I've worked in clinics, the refugee clinic at Survivors at San Francisco General Hospital, Survivors International. I've worked with all ages, people of all different nationalities and situations. And one of the things I saw that was really key, foundational for physical, mental, and social healing was breathing. And so a lot of my experience didn't come from the computer at the beginning. It more came from my own personal experience and from working with people. And as I started exploring the computer and technology, you know, I really realized this whole analog-digital conversation, and that a lot of my life had been in the analog world, the sensory world, the world of experience. So most inventions come from a need, as they say. Necessity is the mother of invention. And now a personal story. About 8 years ago, I met my second husband, the wonderful Gary Yee. And, you know, we fell madly in love. And Gary had sleep apnea and was very noisy at night. And I had a lot of difficulty sleeping. And I'm someone that I love I have to get my 8 hours. And so prior to doing all the body work and things, as I was growing up, I was a musician, and I had done some studio recordings. And so instead of sleeping, because I couldn't, I started listening to Gary's breathing and tracking it and making notes and seeing what can we do to help his breathing. And I tried everything that I knew, and I've studied a lot about respiratory science and breathing. And then one day I just got the idea from when I was in the recording studio, and I had headphones on, and I was being monitored, and I played the guitar, and I could hear myself playing, and how much more awareness that brought to me. So I thought, wow, if we could do something similar for Gary, it might help him to breathe better and more quietly. So that on the left is one of our really early setups. We had a little mixing board on the nightstand next to the bed. Gary was very wonderful. It's like being the little lab rat here. Oh, yeah. And what we did basically was just feed him back the sound of his breathing using some basic audio components. And that really worked because he got to hear and feel what his breathing sounds like and what it feels like. And we all know that, everybody knows that we breathe every day at least 20,000 times, but oftentimes we're not aware of it. And so the sound, the audio feedback helped Gary to be aware of it, and so as his breathing patterns would change and become louder, he would just back off and be quiet. And it was the most fabulous thing because I got like the full 8 hours. So that was our beginning, and so and for me, I became so curious about this. What would happen if I listened to my breath? What would happen to all my physiological markers, like my heart rate and my brain waves? How would it affect, you know, I used to be a dancer, my fitness? How would it affect meditation? How would it affect my whole life? So I got very, very curious about this, and saw technology as a way to enhance my experience, to enhance my knowledge and my experience. And at this point in my life, most of the people I knew who were much more into the body had thought I had completely defected, you know, because they had really associated technology with something that takes us away from our human and our personal experience. And we hear a lot about that today, you know, about Nima and I met at a whole conference focused on how do we cope with technology taking us away from ourselves. So it really took me quite a while to you know, assure people that no, technology actually can bring you closer to your own experience, to the human experience. It doesn't have to take us away. And so for the last 7 years, we have been developing this. And I can't tell you the whole story or you'd miss the rest of your wonderful class, but I thought I could give you a little highlights of our development and some of the things we went through. This was one of our early prototypes where we had a motherboard with the audio in, very crude setup because we didn't want to spend a lot of money. We wanted to see if it worked first. And a serial port to a laptop computer and a program where we could program in thresholds. So I could say, okay, Gary, breathe really quietly. And on my laptop, I'm looking at the, you know, the volumes. And so I could set a threshold. When Gary breathes louder than this, if he doesn't get quiet in 6 minutes, give him a little more output volume in his ear so he can hear and make the proper adjustments, which is to breathe nice and quiet and smooth and relaxed. So it was so amazing how well this worked that we thought we'd just see what the patenting world was like. And, you know, for sure we thought, you know, someone has obviously had to have patented this. But in fact, no one had. And so, and it was really wide open for us. And so we began our patenting process in 2005. And here we are at 2011, and we're really happy we did that. It was painful, you know, having to go through that financially, and also tremendous amounts of writing, research, visioning into the future, and a lot of work was involved. It was a Christmas holiday, and my whole family was on holiday, and I was at the computer. So from that step, we went to this step, which is one of our very early software frameworks. And so this was very tedious, but at the same time it was really fun for me because I was looking at what do I want to know about breathing that I can't know just by sitting here with you or with myself. Now that I've got the digital world, what can it tell me? What can it illuminate? So let's see, that screen doesn't quite all fit on there, but so I really went through for volume, time, all the there's different phases in the breath. We've got an inhalation, a transition, an exhalation, and a rest. I wanted to know everything about all of them. And the ratios, because I thought, if we can get information, let's get information. And then the other thing that was really interesting about this phase was the music background, that breathing and the way that breathing functions in our body physiologically is very similar to voice. The breath passes through the vocal cords and it has its own frequency, and each one of you has your own unique breath sound as well as your own voice. So we could start looking at kind of almost like a musical sound analysis, like what's the attack and the decay and the sustain. And is anybody here into music? You are. Hey, there you go. Exactly. So, it kind of had this real database, digital knowledge, and at the same time, it had this kind of artistic breath. Sound is artistic. It's music. And what can we learn about it? And how can all these things that we learn about it help us to perform better, help us to heal, help us to relax, help us to be more alive? So that was that phase. And then we started recording the breath, which was fascinating. I work at a clinic, and I also have my own studio. And at the clinic I work at, we had a number of sleep apnea patients, as well as patients with everything you can imagine. And the doctor I worked with, once I told him, yeah, Gary's quiet now and I'm sleeping, he started sending me all these sleep apnea patients. And this is a very crude audio recording, but what you can see towards the right is this kind of long space. And what we learned from that is that people that, and I've done this with a number of people that have sleep apnea, don't just have sleep apnea, they have daytime apnea. There's a pattern of breathing that people have who have apnea. And what I found in working with people is that if I could help them, you know, find a more healthy and optimal pattern of breathing during the day, would translate into the night. So then I got rather obsessed with recording people's breathing, which was fascinating to be able to see, even though it was crude. And then I didn't have a picture to show you what our initial thing looked like, but it was an audio-visual cart. And it had 2 laptop computers, one with heart rate variability software, one with our software that you just saw, and recording software. Then we had the M audio box for amplification. We had very high-end mics. The cart, probably if we sold it, someone said, yeah, I want one of those, it would have cost about $2,500. So we thought, well, I wonder if we could get the audio components of this smaller and a little less expensive. And we had this wonderful guy who was like the king of the nano soldering device, where we had this smaller little thing we could kind of carry it around and put our mics in it and be able to record from it. And that brought us to, this was my original vision before the iPhone. I had a little Motorola phone, and we had all this big equipment, and I thought, you know, I want this in my phone. And then suddenly, Apple came out with this. Thank you very much, Steve Jobs and crew. So then we thought, we have to use this, because it was our original vision. It was in our patent that it would be in a phone and mobile device. And so we spent quite a long time seeing if it was possible to take the audio signal of the breath, which is very quiet, using commercial microphones and a headset, and if we could get some good analysis. And we partnered with a couple of engineers in Greece and worked very hard for a few years till we really had something wonderful. And we called our application MyBreath. And the big key to this slide, you can hardly see it, is the bottom. Please note, prototype 12, version 32. And, you know, there were, I can't go through the whole process, but basically we found that we had to create and put out an application in the iTunes store and have people using it to continue to develop. That we needed more people using our technology to be able to make it better and better. Even, we couldn't just say, okay, 100 people use this and breathe. It just wouldn't work. We needed that. Just anybody, how are people using this, and how are we doing on the analysis end? And the version we have out now is, it's our 2.0, but it's really version 32. And this is what it looks like. One of the things that I really wanted when we designed this is, as soon as the app came out, I just wanted people to hear their breathing. I didn't want you to have to go like, you know, like that, and then, but just right away. So as soon as our app comes up, if you have the headset on, what we do is we amplify, do some audio processing and feedback your breathing in real time. And then you get to see it as well.